impact that outweighs a nuclear war between India and Pakistan. The time frame is much faster due to the fact that people can travel everywhere and will spread exponentially. Also, its magnitude outweighs since it affects everyone, not just the Indo-Pak region. Also, Indo-Pak nuclear war is not probable since conflict existed for a long time and hasn't happened yet. Cyber terror also leads to a nuclear war with greater magnitude since terrorists are irrational actors and the plan will make us more susceptible to them. That's Lewis 14. They also conceded the Pig number 14 card, but how only surveillance is key to stopping bioterror and that bioterror impact will lead to extinction, which was Marivold 13 evidence. That means that there's a 100% probability of both of these impacts, and only the status quo can solve. Also, coming out of the 2AC, a key concession was made where any terror attack translates to even more racism to the Arab and Muslim American communities, which will hurt the Arab American co-op even more. That's ACRM 2. Alright, 2AC 1, 215 once ended. You can't. The card is in the context of when it only ended for 2 days, and also during that time surveillance was still being carried out. The programs that were already that have been allowed before, and so you can use this in the context of when 215 will be permanently ended in the future. Also 2AC2, U.S. losing the war on terror, extended Booth 13 evidence, how it talks about there have been specific 50 domestic terror attacks that had been stopped before. Also, it's not about winning or losing in absolute terms. The U.S. is doing well and far better than if softer intel approaches like plan were used. Zenko 15. An exchange press whether the U.S. was winning the war on terror. If I look across the board since 9/11, and if the U.S. intelligence were not engaged against terrorism, I think we would be facing a horrendous environment. They would have taken full advantage of the opportunities to summarize the war on terrorism working compared to inaction or other policies. And train goes neg. U.S. just scored huge victories in the war on terror. Sin 15. U.S. strikes left Al-Qaeda number 2 figure and commander of his powerful Yemen affiliate killed. The killing of Al-Qaeda terror network number 2 commander is a big blow to the affiliate terror groups such as the Somalian-based the Al-Shabaab and the Al-Muran of the East Africa. And on to 2AC3, Arab American Co-op. They have read no evidence about how relations are low now, and because they dropped the turn, the ACRM 2 turn, about how it'll make relations even worse, that means that only the status quo can guarantee that the Arab American cooperation relations won't get any worse, because the plan causes that relationship to be hurt through racism. And they also dropped our Lewis 14 card that talks about how if any terrorism happens, it'll lead to even more surveilled state, which will cause even more racism. Because they dropped both of these terms, we can say that the status quo is a starting point from where we can guarantee that the relationship won't get any worse, and from there we can improve relationship. Also, cross-apply these two terms to the bigotry flow, so they don't even solve for those impacts. And also extend our Mascaro 14 card, how it talks about how the provisions from the original Freedom Act is not enough to solve terrorism. And yes, metadata has checked specific terror attack. It also exposes broader terror cells. Shia 14. The value of metadata is not hypothetical. Illustration is the case of the 9/11 hijacker Al-Madar. Metadata addresses the information gap that existed at the time of the Al-Madar case. The NSA can use metadata along with other data to quickly identify the larger network with the goal of preventing future terror attacks. And communication-based counter-terror ops is key. It's more effective than alternative forms of counterterrorism. Lewis 14. America's size makes it easy to disappear into the seams. Government surveillance is, with one exception, limited and disconnected. The exception is communication surveillance, which provides the best and perhaps the only solution to find and prevent attacks. Suggestions for alternative surveillance, such as the recommendation the NSA can only track known or suspected terrorists, reflect both deep ignorance and wishful thinking. And their turn is a myth. It's complete hype to suggest that Muslim Americans aren't already cooperating with law enforcement. MPAC 11. Dangerous myth of Muslim silence and terrorism persists. This myth, laid in discourse, have reached such a fever pitch that officials are now examining the non-cooperation of Muslim Americans with law enforcement. The fact is that the law enforcement officials and security experts have been tackling this issue head-on alongside the Muslim American community. Also, Lewis 14 and Shia 14 cards that we read is another reason why the plan can't solve for terrorism, and because they conceded before that they can't solve for terrorism, it means that the dissent is a reason to vote against the plan.